So in front of me I have not the Xbox Toledo, but the brand new Xbox Series X. Now of course we have spent a lot of time with a functional unit of this back in February, March, seems like a very long time ago. But today I actually get to spend some up close and personal time with the brand new Xbox console. Let's just take a look and see what's inside the box, shall we? So just like the Xbox Series S, which we've already done an unboxing of, and you can check that out, this is a currently non-functional unit of the Series X. So this is much more so for us to get a little bit of a size comparison with the Xbox Series S. First of all, this is a much more powerful console, right? I mean, there's no getting around the fact that the Series X has over 3 times the graphical horsepower of the Series S. And when you put them side by side, you can really see the difference. So not only is it taller, but it is significantly thicker. I mean, in fact, if actually I put that right on top, it's what, over double the thickness? When you look at the Series X, this is a console which is dedicated to being, quote unquote, the most powerful game console you can buy. And when you look at it compared to the PlayStation 5, it is in fact more powerful. Now, all 3 of these consoles, so the Xbox Series S, the Xbox Series X, and the PlayStation 5, have very similar internals. They're all based on the AMD Zen 2 CPU cores, 8 cores across the board. Funnily enough, the Series X is very slightly more powerful on the processor side compared to the Series S and PS5, which are roughly equivalent, but they're all very similar. All 3 of these next-gen consoles have SSD standard, 1 terabyte on the Xbox Series X and 500 gigabytes on the Series S. But really where you see the major difference is in the graphics side. So the Xbox Series X has 12 teraflops of GPU performance, significantly more than the PlayStation 5 and over 3 times as much as the Series S. But in real terms, we shouldn't see a huge performance difference between them, as this is aimed at 1440p gaming and this is aimed at 4K gaming. And the PlayStation 5, I'm sure, will also be firmly in that 4K camp. But you have to consider, this is a $500 console, which is impressive when you look at it compared to a lot of high-end gaming PCs. But this little guy is only $300. So when you look at the Series S, this is much more similar to something like the Xbox One, or specifically the One S, right? So we have a very simple cooling solution. So we have a single fan here, and if you look at the Xbox sort of explodey view that they released, you can see that the internals are very simple. And of course, this does lack any kind of optical drive. So if you're considering buying an Xbox Series S, you will not be able to purchase physical media for it. Now, potentially at some point, they may offer a USB like Blu-ray drive or something, which you could plug in up front or around back. But until we see that, I would very much expect that this is a digital-only console. Now, when you look at it compared to the Series X, and we know this especially from the teardown, this is a much more hardcore console. So of course, it has a lot more graphics to cool, but it also does incorporate that full-size 4K UHD Blu-ray player, which means that you can buy physical games for the Series X. And you can also, of course, use it for watching Blu-rays or whatever it is that you want. Now, when you flip these consoles around to the back, you'll see that they're very similar. In fact, they're basically identical, but there are a few major differences. As far as ports go, they both have a USB-A port around front. You also have 2 USB-A ports around back. You have Ethernet, which is right here. You have HDMI 2.1. An important thing to note with the Series X and the Series S is that this is an HDMI 2.1 port. What that means is that you're going to theoretically still be able to pump out that 4K 120Hz signal from both of these. In fact, the Series S does support 120 FPS gaming. We have a short clip of Gears 5 running on the Series S. Now you have to have maybe slightly lower expectations for what that's going to look like compared to Series X, and I very much expect that if you're going to see a lot of 120 FPS games, they're going to be on X, not S, but technically both are capable. So when you look at the Series X compared to the Series S, one of the things that really jumps out to me is the actual cooling. So we know for a fact that there's a lot more going on inside the Series X, but a fun little fact is if you look at this little slot right here, this is a secondary intake. The reason for that is because there's a single fan in the Series X, which is pulling air in from the bottom, running it through all of the vapor chamber and the heatsink, and then exhausting it out the top. Say, I don't know, your little brother comes by and puts his Series S on top. Well, oh no, you have no exhaust, except for this little port right here, where theoretically it'll obviously be compromised, but you won't have your Series X completely choke and die on you, which is nice. So one of my big questions going into this Xbox Series X and Series S unboxings are how big are the consoles, right? And I think this does a good job of really placing you in what you're actually going to be getting if you shell out your $300 or $500. So on the right, of course, we have the Series S as well as the Series X. Series S, no doubt, is the smallest Xbox yet. It is really, really tiny compared to everything else. But if you look at these compared to the Xbox One, the OG, as well as the One S and the One X, you'll see that there actually are some pretty big differences. So what you can't see from this angle is that all of these consoles, if I very carefully flip them over, no, I'm gonna have to think about this. So a good way to look at it is like this. So if you look at the actual depth, so on the back, all of the consoles are lined up, you'll see that both the S as well as the X on the Series side are not anywhere near as deep as something like the OG Xbox, which was just massive, but even the S as well as the One X. And I think that's something to really keep in mind as you decide to maybe upgrade and you wanna try to figure out what's going to fit, is that the S is gonna fit anywhere, right? There's no doubt about that. But even the X, I mean, you can look at it is not massive compared to these other consoles. And it does work in either orientation, so you can have it up and down like this, or you can lay it down and just have feet on its side. And I think this is the one that's going to make the most sense if you're trying to plug it into like a TV cabinet or something. It is tall, right? So if I get these consoles out of the way, oh, I forgot how heavy that is. You look at it beside the original Xbox One, it is a little bit taller, but it is smaller in pretty much every dimension. I mean, especially if you put it on top, you can really see just how much smaller these brand new Xboxes are. I like making Xbox towers. This is very fun. I feel very low to the ground right now, though. This is a little awkward. But that really shows the difference, though, how far we've come in 7 years. But really the main difference between these two is that you are getting a much, much more similar sort of experience between the two than we've seen in the past. So if you look at something like the Xbox One going to the One X, there was a huge difference in performance, but ultimately they played the same games, right? The One X would play games at roughly 4K or so, and the standard Xbox One would play games at 720 to up to 1080. Well, I expect something similar this time around. This is your 4K console, right? This has tons of performance, but the thing is you can play all of the same games on the Xbox Series S. They might be at 1080p, 1440p, but you'll still be able to get that very similar experience. You have to consider that this guy is only $300. So the Xbox Series X will be available for pre-order on September 22nd, and it will be going on sale on November 10th for $500, and that is for a 1 terabyte model. The Series S is also going live for pre-order and sale on those same dates, but it is a 512 gig hard drive, or SSD rather, and that is available for $300. Now, what's interesting about these, what I would say are pretty aggressive price points, is how the PlayStation 5 is going to factor in. So the thing is, both of these consoles, even though they do the same thing, go about it in very different ways, right? The Series S is small, it lacks the optical drive, but also it is less powerful. But importantly, it's only $300, which is, I would say, a very good deal for a next generation console. Whereas the Series X is more of the do-all, be-all, kind of top dog of the console range. But at $500, that to me puts a lot of pressure on Sony. How are they going to price that PS5? Which, as of recording this video, who knows, they may announce it at any minute now at this rate. But as of recording this video, we do not have a price on the PlayStation 5. So of course, there are two models of the PS5, like there are two models of the Xbox Series line. So the PS5 itself, as well as the PS5 Digital Edition. But unlike these two consoles, which are very different specifically in their level of graphics and obviously their hardware, the PS5 is basically the same, right? So you can get the exact same specs, frame rates, all that kind of stuff, regardless of which PlayStation 5 you buy. The main difference is one has an optical disc, one does not. So if you don't care about physical media, you're gonna probably save $50, maybe $100 on that PlayStation 5. But right now, my assumption very much is PS5 has got to be at $500 or less, right? I don't think that they're going to be able to do that well if they're $550 or $600, right? I think this has sort of set that goalpost in the ground. And specifically, that digital edition is not going to be this cheap, right? There's no way they're going to be able to push it down. If they hit $400 on the PlayStation 5 digital edition, I'll be impressed. But $450 for digital edition, $500 for the standard PS5 is definitely where my bet is at the moment. Which means that on the high end, there's gonna be a lot of competition. But on the low end, where this Series S is, there's nothing. This console is gonna sell like hotcakes. I mean, they're gonna be absolutely flying off the shelves. Definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. Not only do we have a full video on the unboxing and some of the comparisons with the Xbox Series S, but also we've done a full video over on our second channel, This Is, where we do a little bit more of a comparison. Regardless, you should make sure that you're subscribed to the channel because we got lots more console goodness to come. I hear those Sony fellows have a console or two that's coming up soon.